Yeah, somewhere around 5.8 horsepower or whatnot. So, but let's say we did want to do some work. Okay. Now, obviously, we're going to strip it down. We're going to take the pipe off, take the carburetor off. Okay. And I'm not going to do it on this saw because obviously I'm going to be running it and testing it shortly in the wood. But let me just show you something that I do here. And just imagine in your mind's eye that this 562 XP cylinder is this right here. Okay? And when this cylinder was on here, we screwed this in. I mean, obviously you got to take the carb off so you got room. Or at least take the filter off. And before we tore it off, before we took the cylinder off, we pulled it over and we got a measurement, which is that black line. Okay? Took the cylinder off. And now I got one ring in here. I don't know how this is showing up here. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Okay. And I got one ring here. And what I'm going to do is, boom. Okay. So we're right at 0. And what that is now we are giving you the actual squish because the piston is up against the squish band. It's touching the squish band, okay? Most accurate way you can do it, in my opinion. I mean, you can do the solder. Yeah. I mean, it's close. This is the most accurate way. But there's another reason why I do it this way. Not only is it giving me the squish, okay, now I can take measurements, okay? Now, it would be nice if we had a hemispherical combustion chamber on these and the spark plug was straight on top. But you see the way they have this designed, if they were to, I mean, they could probably do it on this saw. Maybe a little redesign. But the point being is that you could screw this apparatus into that hole. And now you've got, you know, with a long reach indicator, you can measure everything. So basically what this was for is to determine your squish, the absolute squish. And it's actually pretty accurate. It's just an old spark plug. And the barrel of this is 3/8. So you drill it out to 3/8. But right at the end there, don't drill all the way through. Or you could drill all the way through. I didn't do that. I have it come to like a stop. And when it's screwed all the way in there, it's just tight enough. And if it's not tight enough, you can prick punch it, or you can put a piece of tape, or you can find where you want it and epoxy it, or whatever you wanted to do to hold it there permanently. I mean, this here is almost a, I wouldn't say it's an interference fit, but put a piece of tape there and you push it in there, that sucker ain't moving. Okay? But now, what you can do is, now I'm going to go with the exhaust side of the piston here. And what we do is, we are going to take a measurement. Here, let me get us over here and see a little bit better. We're going to take a measurement of the exhaust, and we're going to go as soon as the top of that piston cracks any light. Okay? And what we're going to do, now remember, this piston, I don't have the top ring in it. I got the bottom ring. This has got two rings on it. And the ring's just in there. It holds the piston in there. Okay? Now what you want to do is you take your caliper, and what we'll do is we'll measure down. Here's the exhaust side. We'll measure down. You got to kind of square your caliper up. You got to have it on the right side and everything. And we have a reading of 434 thousandths. Okay? Now, go back up to the stop. Now, if you twist it a little bit, you might be off. But it's usually about 1,000ths repeatability, which is pretty good. And the next measurement I would take is I would go, okay, imagine in your mind's eye the measurement we just took was the piston going down, and it's just starting to release the gas. Now she's going down around the horn there. Now she's on her way back up, and we want to check it when that first ring closes off the port. So she's starting to build combustion. So she came down. We measured that thing on the way down. Now we're measuring it on the way up in your mind's eye. You're still taking it off the bottom. And we do the same thing. We find our exhaust port. Well, I kind of twisted the piston here a little bit. That's why it was probably just a fuzz off. Let me recheck that. You can do that. You can, it's easy to twist the piston because you're kind of just grabbing on the, where the wrist pin goes through. I mean, the ring stops it from moving, but the ring doesn't stop it from twisting. Up and down it stops it from moving, but not from twisting. And now we're gonna take a measurement here. Okay. And we got the first ring compression. Nope, I knocked it down. Let's try that again here. First ring, all the way in, clear. All right. And now, we're going to check this here. And we got 618. Okay? And now you can do the same thing with the numbers on the transfers. And then conversely on the intake side, you're going to, in your mind's eye, it's going to be the distance when it closes the port and when it opens the port. It's symmetrical, okay? It's symmetrical. Closes the port and then opens the port, okay? And you're going to get your distance. Now, I'm doing this without a base gasket, okay? And the reason I'm doing it is because I haven't decided what thickness base gasket I'm going to use. If you wanted to use the stock base gasket and it was 20 thousandths, then obviously add 20, with your base gasket on there, obviously add 20 thousandths, okay? Now, what you do with all these numbers is up to you. I mean, this is just a way for you to get very accurate measurements, probably to within a thousandths. And if you want to take your time, you can probably come up with a little bit better. I mean, there's some better things I can do. I mean, I can use this. You can use this depth micrometer, and it's going to be more accurate than your caliper. But go through it. You know, you set your needle here with the saw, pull it over, and use one of these markers. Then you take it off, screw this in there. I mean, it's already in there, and bring the piston to the top, and that's your actual squish. Then you add your 20 thousandths plus your squish, and you take your measurement. And that's what your measurement is. And then go back and double check it. I mean, you know, try to develop a way that you can take accurate measurements and you can repeat them over and over. That's the whole thing. If you can't take accurate measurements, you know, if you go in there with the caliper and it's twisted, or you push down, you pick up, or you push too far down on a piston, because if you really push down on this, it's obviously it's going to move. You know, I mean, there's no doubt about it. But I like this for the squish, and I like this for building the saw, because if you take the stroke of this, now this is an 064 cylinder, it's 40 millimeters, so it's got a 1.56 inch stroke, which is not a lot, okay? But versus it putting a degree wheel on there, okay? If you take and do the math, it works out that every degree is 8.6 thousandths. So it's almost 9 thousandths every degree on a 180. Okay, we're only working with the exhaust half right now. We're only working with this 180. Now, what's this going to be more accurate for you? Well, if you can work plus or minus a thousandth versus you've got, you know, almost 9 thousandths for a degree, you're going to get more accurate results with this. And it's also, for me, it's easier to think about, because the piston is actually going up and down in a linear fashion. And what you're doing is you're transferring that to a degree, a wheel. Now, the larger your wheel, okay, the more accurate it is, but, you know, are we going to, you know, put a 3-foot wheel on the saw to get it as accurate as this? I don't think so. And there's other ways that you can probably get better. If you if you knew somebody at a machine shop, or you called a machine shop, or some place that has a CMM, coordinate measuring machine, they can go in there with that thing and set this sucker up. Beep, 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 beep. Take all the data points. You know, get in there with different angle probes, touch around. They could give you, you know, a 3D drawing of this thing that's going to be within, you know, half a thousandths, 5/10. Okay? Now, I'm not telling anybody how to do it, but myself personally, I prefer this method. Because you're thinking of numbers. All right, so if I'm at, you know, 434, and that's with my squish added in, a base gasket. If I'm at that number, I only want to go up a few thousandths. Just take off a few thousandths. And then remeasure it, you're there. And then the same thing on the intake. You know, it's symmetrical. Now, a lot of times, something like this, you know, if it's a brand new cylinder, personally, I think you're better off taking a little bit off the bottom of the skirt. You know, and then making a certain amount in a certain shape, and it seems to aid the airflow rather than grinding. But what to do with these numbers and how you want to do the numbers, it's the same thing as the degree wheel. It's you got to experiment. It's just that you can get what you want almost all the time with just using a thinner base gasket, you know. So you you can drop the cylinder down, you know, a 10,000ths with a 10,000ths base gasket, assuming your stock one's 20,000ths. You can drop it down. You can drop the exhaust port down and get a little bit more compression. And then you got your intake, which is going to go lower, which may be better because it's going to increase the duration. Or excuse me, it's actually going to give you more time where that port is open. And you take a little bit off the piston, slap it together and run it. You know, a lot of guys get concerned about the piston. Oh, it's going to crack or break. Well, I don't know. I mean, then grind the intake then if you want. See, the intakes are a funny thing, man. And this is where a lot of guys get screwed up, is on the intake. If you really want to make a power, in my opinion, and take advantage of the laws of physics, the stock filter is not going to work for you. You have to have something where as this thing is closing, you got a negative pulse, it hits the back wall, and it comes back right when the thing is opening. And that's when you're full toot there, full squirt. That's what you want to happen. At other RPMs, it's going to spit back because it's not timed right. And again, you know, that's what, you know, you building a saw, that's where the time comes in. That's where, you know, the expense and the tooling you got to buy to do this, and the know-how and thinking, and then actually doing it on your own saw and proving it out. That's where you're paying somebody money. You're not paying, or you shouldn't be paying, you know, some jamoke who shouldn't be charging people for work. I mean, if you want to charge people for work, you know, you got to stand by it, and you got to field test your stuff first. Experiment on your own stuff, you know, like the chain. I've had the chain on that 261C. My concern was, maybe it's a little bit too much. It'll stretch. Maybe it'll break. I've had it on that 261 for quite a few years. It's a good chassis. We'll try it here. I'm going to get the cut speed, but am I going to get the longevity? Is it going to stretch? Well, I really don't know, because, you know, this is a little bit more horsepower, a little more torque. I personally think it'll be all right, but we'll see. Time will tell, you know. But that's what you're basically hiring somebody for a service. You know, if you hire a guy for a tree service, the guy does the job. They use ropes, safety equipment, even if they got to put a couple ropes in their chain or whatever, and they work safely and they get the job done. That's the guy that you retain his services, not the guy that's, you know, putting a tree into the house. You know. But again, your saw, your nickel, you do whatever you want. Personally, this one right here, I think I'm just gonna run it, and, you know, maybe make enough off of it to where I can get another saw, and then maybe I'll play around with that saw. You know, I just hate taking a brand new saw and putting the boots to it. You know, when I'm going to use it for years and years and years and years. I mean, this is good. This pipe is good. The chain's good. I don't know. I don't see really the reason why to mod the heck out of it. You know, but we'll see. We'll see. It's all talk till we put it in the wood. So we'll see. All righty. Good night.